Welcome to the Fairfax Sports Report here on the Fairfax Sports Network. That's right, it is our big football preview blowout. Just like we told you we would have it, all of us are here, guys. We are ready to rock. We got all the new news and stats, all the new teams, everybody, all the new players. We know everything. For the next hour, you're going to get the most high school football knowledge dropped on you than you've ever heard in your life. I can promise you that. But before we get to that, let's thank the folks that make this show possible. And of course, we're talking about our underwriters, CCI Screen Printing, for all your screen printing needs at 703-978-0257. CCI Screen Printing for all your screen printing needs. We have no need for any screen printing right now, guys. The only thing we need in this room are our news, notes, and stats, and that's what we're bringing here today. All right, starting off right at the bat, Concord District Football. Their 2006 standings right here. Westfield at the very top finished with the best overall record, guys, but they did not go the furthest. 11-1, 6-0 in the district, but it was Chantilly's world went all the way to the state championship game, Division 6, 10-4 under Coach Mike Lally, 4-2 in the district, and then it was Oakton sneaking into the playoffs, 6-5, 3-3. Robinson, Herndon, Centerville, and Fairfax rounding out the middle of the pack, all at 6-4 were Robinson and Oakton, and of course Centerville. Now, a lot of changes in the district. Before we get to that, guys, I want to introduce our panel of experts here. I'm BJ Kubaroulis, your host here on the Fairfax Sports Report, along with John Marcario and Paul Frummelt of the Connection newspapers, and Dave Bushenfeld of the Times papers. Now, guys, all of us being reporters in the area have had the opportunity to cover these exciting Concord District teams. Give me a feel for who you guys think are some of the top returning players.
Obviously, you got to start off with Mike Glennon, the quarterback out of Westfield, threw 18 touchdown passes last season. He's leading a very tough offense over there. You got Austin Decker, QB, stepping in at Chantilly. He had a little bit of experience last year, played when Nate Warwick went down in the Northern Region Final, led them to the win over Westfield, and then again over Verina in the state semifinals the next week.
Now, obviously, these are two of the top quarterbacks in the Concord district, but they're very different quarterbacks. Mike Glennon, a pro-style drop-back quarterback, very strong arm, very accurate arm. Austin Decker, he runs that option offense at Chantilly, and with Torian Pace and Antonio Cross. So he's more of a runner. He's a fast kid, but he can still throw when he needs to.
This is the kind of knowledge you're going to get all night here for every single district on the Fairfax Sports Report Football Preview Blowout. Again, I'm your host, BJ Kubaroulis, alongside of John Marcario and Paul Frummelt and Dave Bushenfeld. And in just a minute, speaking of Mike Glennon, guys, Mike Glennon's going to be joining us on the phone to talk about Westfield and their expectations and more for this season. But for now, let's get to the rest of the players in the Concord District that we think are going to be players to watch, Dave.
Well, we were talking about Mike Glennon at quarterback for Westfield, but they have some other playmakers on that team, especially in the backfield. Brian Kennedy and Steve Tabbitt are the running backs over there, combined for 19 touchdowns last year, so they can really do some damage on the ground.
Now, Stephen Tabbitt is kind of the every down back for Westfield. He's going to get the most touches for Tom Verbanek's crew. But Brian Kennedy, he can break one at any time. He is that big play running back. You see 10 touchdowns, 671 yards. He's a big play running back for the Bulldogs.
Of course, Brian Kennedy, a guy that was also the returning district defensive player of the year. So this is a guy that not only gets it done offensively, but defensively, Brian Kennedy, one of the best returning players, I think, in the Northern region. Speaking of some of the best players in the Northern region, let's move right into our other players to watch in the Concord District, and it's Antonio Cross, Dave Bushenfeld. Antonio Cross, over 1,000 yards last year, and a big reason he transferred in was to get some more touches. This is a guy that got more touches and really helped this Chantilly team get to where they were.
He was a workhorse for the Chargers last year, definitely a bruising back. He'll pop you in the mouth when he's running through there. Ran for, like you said, over 1,000 yards, scored 3 touchdowns, and he and Torian Pace make a pretty good tandem in the backfield for Chantilly.
Speaking of tandems, Trey Watts was a tandem last year at Oakton. In the backfield, he was also rushing with the likes of fullback Jonathan Kedrock, one of the biggest bruisers ever to come through the Oakton Cougars' storied program. He'll be doing the same this year. He's a little injured right now. I talked to Coach Joe Thompson. But Nima Wolo, one of the most explosive players in the region, he's a track star, a 4.43 40. They're expecting him to step in and fill the shoes of Irvin Garner, who is at Virginia Tech, who ironically also ran a 4.43 40 at Virginia Tech. So that speed is there. The Cougars reload really nicely. John, for Robinson, it's Alex Murray.
Alex Murray last season had 412 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns, a little low. Look for his numbers to blow up big time this year. Robinson didn't quite have the balance that they usually do with the passing and the rushing. Quarterback comes back this year. Murray comes back this year. A little bit more experience on the offensive line. He should do well for the Rams.
And speaking of players we think will do well, Mike Glennon's going to be with us in just a minute. But we've also got our Concord District breakout player, Daryl Hamilton, who we think will be breaking out at Centerville.
Daryl Hamilton, combination running back DB. Hamilton is a key defensive back for the Centerville Wildcats and defensive coordinator Mike Skinner. Yes, defensive coordinator Mike Skinner taking over for Jerry Pannoni, who took over for him as head coach. Now, Skinner's not going to blitz as much. He's going to have more of a read defense, and a smart kid like Hamilton leading that defense is really going to help the Wildcats.
All right, and a guy that likes to hear that Centerville won't be blitzing as much is the quarterback on the phone with us now, Mike Glennon. Are you there?
Yes, sir. Here I am.
Mike Glennon, here he is, ready to get out on the field already. You can hear the enthusiasm in his voice. Mike, tell us a little bit about the expectations coming into this season, having already signed your letter of intent to play at NC State. You got that out of the way. What are your expectations, though, with you and your explosive backfield and almost all of your returning offensive linemen and 17 starters back, Mike, from last year?
Well, I think that we're going to have to live up to a lot of hype this year. I mean, every preseason poll, we're almost at the top, and we kind of know what to expect. We got to stay humble, and we can't let that get to us. And at the same time, we know that we're pretty good. We have about 9 returning starters, and we just have a lot of shoes to fill being at Westfield, and we think we can live up to the hype and win a state championship.
Now, Mike, you guys opened the season home against South County. Do you consider that game a possible little trap one? I mean, South County was a playoff contender last year, lost the last day of the regular season to not make the playoffs. They have playoff aspirations this year. What do you know about South County, and how important of a game is that for you guys to start out with a win?
I mean, like Coach Braddock always says that we always have a big target on our back being Westfield, and it's probably even more this year, because we're preseason number 1 everywhere. And obviously South County is a young and hungry team. This is one of their, I guess, full classes that they have there. So they've been very experienced. This is, I guess, second class to graduate. So I think they're going to be hungry to beat Westfield just like every other team in the region.
Mike, talk to me about this Westfield defense. I know Coach Braddock told me that you guys practice against one of the best defenses in the Northern region in the Westfield defense. Talk about what you see from the defensive squad this year.
This year, I mean, we're just very deep in the defensive line. We got so much depth there. That's definitely the deepest position we have. And then our linebacking core and Mike King, Cole Campbell, Brian Kennedy, I mean, they're just all very good. And then our secondary with Tucker Carl, and then we have some young corners that are working in, but they're getting the job done. And, I mean, I think this is the best defense we've had in a while. I mean, years before, I think the offense has usually beat up on the defense pretty good, but this year it's been a fight. I mean, I was actually surprised going into camp. I thought we were going to give it to the defense, but really they've been hanging with us, if not beating us.
Now, Mike, the best game that I saw last year was the Northern Region Final between you and Chantilly. I'm sure you remember it. You had the region title in your grasp, but Austin Decker scooted in for a touchdown with about 14 seconds left. How much do you think about that game, and how much motivation is that giving you and your team heading into this season?
I mean, like you said, we have 17 starters back, and we have 17 starters that know exactly how that felt. I mean, it wasn't a good feeling. That's 2 years in a row that we've lost in the regional championship. So we want to get over that hump and win a state championship. And, I mean, we're just as hungry as everyone else to win a regional championship. I mean, we know how it feels, and we know what it takes to get there, but this time we just got to get over the hump.
The younger of the two Glennons looking to make his name in the Northern region. Mike, big hype, big aspirations for you this year. We'll be looking out for you here on the Fairfax Sports Network. Thanks for joining us.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, guys, and for those folks at home that don't know the name Glennon in the Northern region, Sean Glennon, obviously Mike's older brother, the quarterback at Virginia Tech. I got a chance to talk with both of them when I did a story about them, talking about the comparisons, the hype, and I talked to their dad, who was a heck of an athlete in their day, and he said, look, you know, we're not asking Mike to be Sean. and Sean won a state championship. So in that respect, Mike's asking himself to follow that path and go win that state title. And a lot of people think that this is the year that Westfield can break through. I mean, you mentioned that heartbreaker to Chantilly. This is the year for Coach Tom Verbanek and Westfield.
On paper, they are the best team in the Northern region, but as they say, that is why they play the game. So Chantilly shocked them last year. It could happen again.
All right, let's see what us or so-called experts think about the Concord District and who's going to win the Concord District. Well, hey, is it any surprise that we all agree that Westfield's right there? I think there's going to be a lot of Chantilly folks, the purple platoon, not too happy with the experts on the Fairfax Sports Report. But when Westfield does play Chantilly in the regular season, that could be the game of the year, guys. All right, into our second segment of the show, jumping right into the Patriot District. I'm BJ Kubarulis alongside of our Patriot District expert right here, John Marcario of the Connection newspapers, Paul Frummelt, and Dave Bushenfeld, all experts here on the Fairfax Sports Report. You can find our expert commentary online at fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. You're going to get all of our picks and all the graphics you see online tonight, all the stats and everything. Go to our website, and over the next week, we're going to be doing an overhaul, so you'll get a lot more out of fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. But for now, stick with us as John Marcario drops his knowledge on the Patriot District. John Marcario, last year the Patriot District was one of the more interesting districts. Hasn't normally been that way because a couple of years ago Robinson was there and just dominated everybody. Now that they move over a couple of years ago to the Concord District, things seem to be playing themselves out a little bit more, but of course, no surprise, Annandale right there at the top of the 2006 district standings.
Yes, there's a lot of parity in the Patriot District last year. Annandale won their second consecutive district title. They were 6-4 overall, sparkling 6-1 district record. Then you had West Potomac. West Potomac is the hot, sexy team this year that a lot of people think could win the district title. They were 6-4 overall, 6-1 in district play. Like Braddock, they're back-to-back, second consecutive 6-4 season, 4-3 in district play. Then you have Lee, 5-5 in overall, 4-3 in district play. Then you had South County, who struggled at the end, losing 2 of their last 3 games and missing out on the playoffs on the last day of the regular season. They ended up the year 3-4 in district play, as did West Springfield, who remains to look for a positive aspect from their defense, which struggled last season. T.C. Williams finished second to last with a 2-5 district record, and Hayfield still rebuilding over there. They had a 0-7 district record.
All right, Hayfield still reeling from the closing, or rather opening of South County, which slashed its numbers, guys, and they've had a difficult time rebounding from that, and as you can see, an 0-10 record to finish out last season. But some folks that have had some more luck after going 0-10, if I might mention, 2 years ago, Lake Braddock went 0-10. 6-4 the next season, 6-4 again last season, and right now, Lake Braddock probably has one of the best players, not just in their district, but in the northern region, in a familiar name to the Fairfax Sports Report.
You have quarterback Shane Halley. He had 852 yards passing last year, 352 yards rushing last year. He also is a stellar baseball player who was offered a scholarship to the University of Virginia to play baseball. He accepted it during the springtime, so that's where he will be going. Look for his numbers to increase drastically this year as they have an offensive line that they're looking to improve, but a running back that comes back, big things could be happening for Shane Halley.
All right, and speaking of big things for big players in the Patriot District, some players to watch, jumping right into it. Bryn Renner, a familiar name for the West Springfield Spartans, son of the coach there, Bryn, a standout wide receiver who I think will excel this year, guys. But, hey, Peter Lalick is gone, okay? So those numbers, 860 yards last season, 54 receptions, guys. Does that change, in your opinion, with Peter Lalick now at UVA?
Well, obviously it does change. Peter Locke was exceptional. Renner, though, coming in at quarterback, he still has some receivers to throw to, obviously, so he should be all right.
And one of the more unsung players, as we've already talked about Halley, but one of the more unsung players, not just in the northern region, but in the state, is Josh Wells, a senior running back for West Potomac. 1,600 rushing yards and 20 touchdowns, guys. And a lot of people always point to big 6'9", 285 Jimmy Bennett opening up those holes for him there at West Potomac. But Jimmy is a run blocker, but he's a better pass blocker. So if that tells you anything, it means he's going to protect the quarterback and open up holes for Josh Wells. Having Jimmy Bennett on the offensive line, a guy that's had almost over 20 scholarship offers all over the country, is a pretty big guy to have on your team, to say the least.
And mind you, Josh Wells did this in his junior year.
And he also missed a couple of games last year due to various reasons, but he did that in 8 games.
Moving into our last two players to watch, Titus Pennington of South County and Anton McCallum, a first season as a starter, but someone they think is going to be good at Hayfield. But at South County, guys, Titus Pennington, 60 yards per game last year in our numbers. And to talk about Titus Pennington and the rest of the South County Stallions is head coach Pete Bendorf. Coach Bendorf, you made the decision to go back to coaching a couple of years ago and open up a new school in South County. Are you still liking that decision with the squad you have coming back now? You guys seem to be a force already, and you shouldn't be at that level being just a third-year program.
Well, are you there, guys?
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah. It's a great opportunity for us. I'm glad to be coaching. It's something I really enjoy. It's kind of a passion for me. We're working hard. This is a great group, that we've had for 3 years, and we're making strides. We're not where we need to be, and obviously we got a huge challenge tomorrow with Westfield.
Now, Coach, you mentioned you play Westfield. Do you think it's a good thing that you're playing the best team in the land? What the so-called experts say, the best team in Game 1 when there's still some kinks that both of you guys are working out, or would you rather play them later on in the season?
Well, I don't know that it's a treat any time, but we certainly want to play against the best because certainly that's the level we want to play at.
Coach, last year, looking at the Patriot District, a lot of parity, 4 teams at 6-4. Do you see the district shaking out that same way this year?
Yeah, in fact, I think it's probably a little even more even this year. Certainly probably Potomac's probably the best, but Annandale and Lee, West Springfield, ourselves, TC and Hayfield, we're all very competitive. It's, we probably don't have the elite teams like the Concord does, but, it's a great league.
Now, Coach, talking to you last week, you said that the team kind of fell apart a little bit at the end of the season. You needed to win one of your last 2 games to make the playoffs, lost both. Is that something you've been talking about to motivate the kids coming into this year, trying to get the job done this season?
Yeah, certainly we believe that we didn't finish very strong. We had to win one game, one of the last 2 to get in, and we had played great defense up through 8 games. Last 2 games we kind of fell apart, gave up more points in 2 games than we did in 8. It's something we've stressed really the whole off season and through summer camp. Finishing the job, and that's kind of when we get to the end of practice and we condition. We talk about that all the time.
Coach, a name that a lot of people know who follow South County is Titus Pennington. Mention some other kids on the squad that might make an impact this year.
We really kind of feel pretty good about our defense. We got some quality defensive linemen. Richard During, who's a 3-year starter at defensive end for us. Samir Hayter, who's another defensive end. Our secondary, we have 3 quality D-backs who will get tested tomorrow, I'm sure. Kyle Michaels, Carlos Morgan, and Andre Simmons, who are all underclassmen.
Well, Coach, hey, we know you got work to do. We want to thank you for joining us here on the Fairfax Sports Report. And for those Fairfax Sports Network buffs, Pete Bendorf, one of the creators of course, the Bendorf Bench, coming back to his roots here, Coach, joining us on the show, maybe?
Anytime, guys. You know that if I got some free time, I'll come out and help you out.
Thanks so much, Coach. Good luck this season, and good luck tomorrow night.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Coach.
Guys, I mentioned it at the top of the interview. Coach Pete Bendorf was an athletic director, guys, and he had a job that a lot of coaches get itching for after a while. The grind gets to you coaching sometimes, and he decided to become an athletic director, but went back to coaching, and that's not a move you see very often. I think he saw, so to speak, a gold mine in the South County Lorton area that was untapped, a lot of talent, and they have been a formidable program, not just building every year. They've been a contender. They almost made the playoffs last year. Mm-hmm. I think that's a pretty stout program to do that in just a couple of years already as a varsity program.
A program that I'd like to compare him to is Westfield. When Westfield first started up, it didn't take long before they were competing for a Concord District title. South County, the same exact way.
All right, let's mention some of the other teams around the Patriot District. Coach Bendorf mentioned there's a lot of depth, guys, and let's get into some of that depth. I think you start with West Potomac in the Patriot District. I mentioned Jimmy Bennett, one of the biggest recruits ever to come through the northern region. He's 6'9", 285. He's a great pass blocker. He has never given up a sack in his entire varsity career or JV. He played 4 games of JV as a tight end. They didn't know what to do with him. He was so big coming in, 6'6", in his freshman year, put him right up to varsity, put him on the line, and he's just been an incredible force for them. This is the type of kid that can block 2 kids at once on the offensive line.
West Potomac, I've talked to every single one of the teams in the Patriot District, and that's the one school that every single coach either says, I think they're going to win it, or I think they're going to be right there 1 or 2. They are the very hot pick right now. They started out last season a little slow, won several games. Their last 6, including all district games, at the end, just barely missed the playoffs. West Potomac still looking to ride that hot streak.
And Rob Everett over at Lee in his 2nd year looking to get that thing rolling, but lost 6 players that were key impact players. You mentioned their quarterback, Chris Otterson, and then you had Brandon Cameron, the school's all-time leading career rusher.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty difficult to replace Cameron back in the backfield. You got Kelly Fitzgerald coming in at quarterback. He should do a bang-up job for them. They're a little young in the defensive backfield. That might hurt them a little bit, but they should be doing all right.
And we mentioned Lake Braddock 2 years ago, 0-10, 6-4 the last 2 seasons. Shane Halley really could be the spark to get that team going, but their defense, guys, their defense is one of the best in the northern region and quite unsung. They really started hot in the beginning of last season, tailed off a little bit towards the end. T.C. Williams, always a stout program there from Alexandria, and West Springfield, Bryn Renner, the big name over there. We'll see what West Springfield has to do to get better, John, and it's been defense that has been their struggle for the last couple of years.
West Springfield, I'm sure they're tired of hearing it. Their coaches are tired of hearing it, even the fans. But their defense has just been, for lack of a better word, atrocious for the last couple of years, especially last year. They give up 40 or more points 5 times in a row in the middle of the season, including that dazzling 81-74 loss to West Potomac they had in triple overtime. That's a lot of points.
Well, yeah, I mean, and Peter Lollick really in that game threw up 5 touchdowns, 6,000 yards, I think, in that game, and they still lost. Dave?
BJ, you're forgetting one team, the 2-time defending district champion, the Annandale Adams. Now, I know they lost Nathan Cartagena, who was not their whole offense, but a pretty big chunk of their offense. He could do pretty much whatever you wanted him on the field. But Dick Adams has a good team every year.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't forget the X Factor. One of the greatest coaches in the history of the Northern Region, Dick Adams, who started half these guys' coaching careers.
Yep, they have a junior, Kason Kynes, taking over quarterback. Dick said that he sees a lot of similarities between him and Cartagena. I don't think there's ever going to be another Nathan Cartagena, but they should be all right.
Annandale does also return 11 starters back from last season's team.
The Adams could be strong again in 2007. Who do we think strong in the Patriot District? Let's get right to our picks, guys, and see who wins the Patriot District. I'm breaking rank here a little bit, and I think Jimmy Bennett over at West Potomac won't like that too much over at seeing I got South County picked to win it. But Dave, John, and Paul all choosing the West Potomac Wolverines and Josh Wells to run away with the Patriot District title.
This is obviously a toss-up. You got South County. Again, the parity. Just what Coach Bendorf said, the parity in the Patriot District is so great. So it's a toss-up. I went with West Potomac. You went with South County. We'll see.
I'll tell you what's not a toss-up, the fact that all you folks at home that love high school football, you'll be coming back. That's right. Right after these messages, you'll be coming back to get the rest of our football preview. And in just a second, a new segment of our show, our volleyball top 5 roundup with a new FSN personality, Monica Moore. Come on back for more here on the Fairfax Sports Report. Welcome back to the Fairfax Sports Report here on the Fairfax Sports Network. I'm your host, BJ Kubarulis, and I'm joined now by Monica Moore, Fairfax Sports Network's volleyball analyst, who has put together the top 5 in the Northern Region. Monica, take it away.
Well, the 2007 volleyball season is almost underway, and there are a lot of teams in the Northern Region to be excited about. And BJ, I don't know if the Chantilly faithful are going to be happy about my list either, because at the top of the list has to be Westfield. They're last season's Northern Region champions. They went 22-5, and they have 6 players returning from that championship team. And one of those players is junior outside hitter Sammy Spees. Spees has made the all-region tournament team as both a sophomore and a freshman, and we should be looking for really big things out of her this season. And also returning for Westfield is 6'3" outside hitter Kelsey Maloney. She missed all of last year due to illness, but she's back. And as if having one 6-footer on the front line wasn't enough, they also have 6'1" Kelly Murray. She's a junior middle hitter. So with all of that size and all of that experience, they're going to be really impressive. Second on the list has to be Langley. Langley has 8 players returning from last year's team, 3 of whom are starters. And one of those starters is senior setter Megan Shiflett. Last year, Megan was all Met, all state, all region, all everything, and there's no reason to expect that this year will be any different. She's already committed to Penn State, and she really leads her team with a lot of leadership. Also joining Megan is Lisa Scott. She's a senior outside hitter. She's already committed to Maryland, and she was all region last year. Third, we have Centerville. Centerville is always among the top teams. They always seem to find their way into the Final Four. They won the Concord District last year, and they have to be among the top this year. Now let's talk about Chantilly. Chantilly has one of the best liberos in the region. Now, for those who don't know a lot about volleyball, a libero is a strictly defensive player. She only plays on the back line, and she can't hit the ball when it's above the net. They have one of the best, Vicky Chung. She was all-state last year. And they only lost a couple of players from their Final Four team, so I would expect to see them among the Final Four again this year. And rounding out the list is Stonebridge. They have a really impressive libero on that team as well, Natalie Driscoll, and she's being joined by setter Lily Veya. I got to talk to Coach Jill Racciatore, and she's really excited about Veya. She thinks she has great hands and a lot of leadership skills. So that rounds out the top 5. But I would expect to see some other teams, maybe Herndon, maybe Robinson, before the season's over.
Hey, that is Monica Moore's top 5 here on the Fairfax Sports Report. You'll get that every week and online at fairfaxsportsnetwork.com to check Monica's analysis and rankings on our website. Monica comes prepared. She comes with her game face. She's ready to go. Some of the best knowledge right there that you'll find in the Northern region. Tune in every week for Monica's update. And for more football, come on back in less than 30 seconds where the boys and I will be throwing around the pigskin a little more, talking about our picks for Northern Region Champion. Welcome back to the Fairfax Sports Report here on the Fairfax Sports Network. I'm your host, BJ Kubaroulis, alongside of John Marcario and Paul Frummelt of the Connection newspapers and the Times papers. Dave Bushenfeld, sports editor over there. We're all reporters here in the area, and all we do all week is think about who's going to win the Northern region. Well, we've got that all mapped out for you. We voted on our top 10, and in just a minute, if you hang with us, we're going to show you our Fairfax Sports Network's top 10. You can also get that every week on the website at fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. Our news and notes section and our whole website will be getting an overhaul this week, so make sure you check back. But guys, what you don't need to check back for is to find out who's going to win the Liberty District. Everyone already knows that. It's a matter of who's coming in second. Let's just jump right into last year's final standings of 2006, and you'll see right up at the top, it's the usual suspect. Since they joined the district 2 years ago, Stonebridge has just been undefeated in the district.
But another usual suspect you see at number 2 is Madison. They're always fighting with Stonebridge to try to take over them, and Marshall is there right too for number 2 and number 3. Woodson's right there at 5-5, Langley at 6-4, McLean 2-8, South Lakes 2-8, and Jefferson 2-8 last year.
So some work to be done there at the bottom of the district. McLean and Coach Rick Rivera looking to turn it around in his 4th year. And John Ellenberger at South Lakes lost a lot of athletes, but gets Scott Reed from the baseball team to come back as his quarterback. So maybe some changes there in Reston. But something that doesn't change is a guy that's been so talented, Paul, and Stonebridge. And it's a name that many Stonebridge fans will recognize, having had a lot of older brothers and siblings and relatives having gone to Stonebridge, is Jaron Veya is the man to watch. Per se, he'll be ringing the Liberty's bell, Paul.
The Liberty District, the Virginia Tech recruit, Jaron Veya, he's just an athlete. Last year, 65 tackles and 3 interceptions. He is their best player, and he is the best player on the field usually when he's playing.
And they thought about putting him at quarterback for a while there at Stonebridge, but they had, put your best athlete at quarterback was kind of the thought. But, a guy that's taken over that position is Patrick Thompson, a junior. And speaking of family and relatives, Veya having had a lot that went through Stonebridge, there's one man that's not leaving Stonebridge. That's been there for quite a while. That's Mickey Thompson, his father. And Mickey's going to be joining us in just a minute to tell us all about the Bulldogs and about his relationship with his son, who is now his quarterback. Harold Sweet at Marshall, Paul, is a guy that really could make some noise this year. A tall 6'3", 6'4" quarterback that almost got this team into the playoffs.
He was a little shaky the first couple of games for Marshall, but last year only 1 interception in the final 5 games of the season, 8 touchdowns in 2006.
Harry Keys, a returning tight end for Madison, along with Ed Radford. That's going to be another guy to watch for the Warhawks, a D1 scholarship offer from Air Force.
Now, Radford and Keys are both key tight ends and defensive ends for the Madison Warhawks. Keys is getting a little bit more of a look right now. He's a big kid, sure hands. Both him and Radford will be great for the Warhawks.
And if I know Gordon live, a tight end is someone who's really important in his run game type based atmosphere. The superpower is what he calls it, and that's all they'll run. This guy, he could have Peter Lalick at his quarterback position, and he is not throwing the ball. Danny Pritchett from Langley, 158 yards, 1 touchdown against the best team in the land against Stonebridge last year. So the Saxons return him at quarterback. So, he's a guy that potentially could make some noise for the Saxons. Another guy to watch from McLean is Aaron Cornwell. Paul, he's a guy that leads the linebacking core for Coach Rick Rivera's squad.
Definitely. Cornwell, people believe that Aaron Cornwell is like a Veya, a just phenomenal athlete that will take his team to the other level.
And talking about McLean for a minute, they've got a guy that's coming out for the team this year that has not played football in his entire career at McLean, Tarek Amore, and many of you at home might recognize that name from our basketball episodes. Tarek Amore is the school's all-time leading scorer in basketball. He just broke that record as a junior. Had an older brother, Bassem Amore, that also went through McLean. That he's overseas playing at times professionally. But Tarek's a really good athlete, getting some looks at the D1 level for basketball. And here he is coming out in his senior year to play receiver DB for the McLean Highlanders to help out Coach Rick Rivera's squad.
Well, he adds speed to the Highlanders. He also adds, he's a sure-footed kid. Obviously, playing on the basketball court, he can move around, and he has that speed. It's an upgrade for McLean in the secondary.
In just a minute, we're going to be joined by head football coach at Stonebridge, Mickey Thompson, is going to join us to tell us about his relationship with his twin sons that play football at his Stonebridge school out there in Ashburn for our Loudoun viewers. And we're also going to get to some other Liberty District schools. When you think about the Liberty District, Madison, a team that's been knocked out by the Bulldogs in the last couple of years in the playoffs. They've beaten them, 3 or 4 times,
Four
Paul?
times in the last 2 years. Madison is a key team in this Liberty District, but Stonebridge continues to beat them.
And a coach that is quite responsible for that, but is also good friends with Madison's Coach Gordon Live, is Mickey Thompson from Stonebridge. Mickey, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hey, Coach, thanks for joining us. We know you got a busy schedule out there coaching all the boys, but you're coaching one of your own boys this year. I think 2 of your own boys, your twin sons playing for you on the Bulldogs, and your son Patrick takes over the quarterback position job. Tell us a little bit about what it took for Patrick to win that job.
Well, it was a difficult decision, and he'd never played quarterback before, and he was a tight end, and we just moved him from tight end, and it's gonna be a pretty steep learning curve, and I just hope it works out.
Now, Coach, you've had success in the Liberty District. What has done well for you in district play over the past several years?
Well, we've been really good offensively, and I think the first year we came in, we were probably better on defense, but we've just been pretty lucky so far, and I really like the Liberty District. I like the quality of teams. I like the coaches. I think it's a good move. It's been a good move for us, and I've really enjoyed the competition so far.
Coach Jaron Veya, we all talk about Jaron. For you, what does he bring to this Stonebridge team that makes him so special?
He just has instincts. It goes from everything from he's the first one to pick up a ball bag. He's the first one to pick up a vest. He's the first one to put a bag away or pick up a bag. I mean, he does everything. He knows what the team needs. He can play anywhere. He knows everybody's assignment. He helps all the kids. I've never seen a kid like that ever in all my years of coaching.
Coach, I've been talking a lot about motivation tonight. Your team breezed through the regular season last year, but was upset by Edison in the region finals. Is that something that's in the back of everybody's mind heading into this year?
I don't know if it's in the back of our minds, but it was really disappointing. I mean, that was a great group of kids, and maybe one of the best I've ever had. And if you go back and you think about the season, I got great memories, and we're all still very close. The players that graduated, but I do feel like I let them down, and I didn't get that championship that they wanted. So it would have been nice to make that run, but that's last year, and now we got a new group, and I don't think they think too much about that as much as they do. They just want to get back in the playoffs.
Well, Mickey, you're always taking the blame. As long as I've known you, you've been doing that. But let's talk a little bit about one special player that's coming out this year that some people may recognize his last name. I remember watching Ed Wang come through your program years ago when I worked out in Loudoun. And now his little brother, we were talking about him then. David is finally here. He's a name to be dealt with on the team. How's he fitting in the program, and how has he come along in your program?
Well, I think he'll be a two-way player as soon as he's able to, handle the conditioning part of it. Right now, he's starting on offense and he's rotating on defense, and he's only rotating on defense until he gets his conditioning up and he's able to go both ways. But he's 6'2", 300, and runs like a back. I mean, he's really a special player, and I expect him Tuesday to get offered and by Tech, and I think he's going to have a great college career.
And he's a young man who could be following in his brother's footsteps, who went to Tech, parents a couple of Olympians, so this kid's got the pedigree and special player.
Coach, speaking of college recruits, Andrew Nuss, losing him from both lines, who has stepped up to fill that role, if you can fill that role?
Well, I mean, Andrew was a great player for us, and basically he was a really good offensive lineman at inside tackle for us, and so we want to keep the same schemes and the same thought process on offense. So we put our next best lineman there, a young guy coming up, and that's David Wang. So you're talking about one great player leaving and another great player filling his shoes, and David only being a junior. We got 2 years of him anchoring that line, and that's one of the reasons I wanted him to start on offense first. We needed a marquee player to replace Nuss, and I think David will fill the shoes.
Stonebridge coach Mickey Thompson joining us here on the Fairfax Sports Report. Coach, want to thank you so much for making time for us here on the Sports Report. Come on back anytime. You're welcome here with us knuckleheads.
All right.
Thanks,
Sounds
Coach. Good luck.
All right, thanks.
All right, guys. So right there, I mean, look, they lose a Nuss, they get a Wang back. You know what I mean? They lose a Veya, they get another Veya. This is a program that continues to replenish itself. One of the only programs in the state, and I guarantee you the only program in the state at the Division V level that is making cuts. They are getting rid of kids. Nobody does that.
That's one thing I was going to mention. They just replenish. Look at, even when they don't have a kid waiting in the wings, a kid transfers in like Wallow Brown last year. They have kids ready, and with the talented coaching staff that they have, they can teach those kids and get them ready by their junior year to play and make a difference. That's the thing about Stonebridge. It's juniors are making a huge difference, and they, like Coach Thompson said, and then they have 2 years with them.
All right, so who do we think wins the Liberty District? I think you all know exactly who we think wins the Liberty District. It's a clean sweep for Mickey Thompson's Stonebridge Bulldogs. Will they make it back to the state championship game? Will they make it back past the region, guys? So much for this team to accomplish, although they've already steamrolled their way through the Liberty District. All right, jumping into another district, it's the final district in the northern region, the National District, one that doesn't have as much parity as the other districts, but does often have some bright spot players. And right away, you think of the guys like Ben Barber, Robbie Shivers, and others. Ben Barber helped this squad to an 11-3 record last year, Dave, a 6-1 finish in the district, and Robbie Shivers helped the Yorktown squad to a 9-2 finish, 6-1 in the district. Loudoun Valley no longer in the district, having joined the Cedar Run, but take it away from Mount Vernon.
Mount Vernon finished fourth last year, 5-5 overall, 4-3 in the district. Then you had Falls Church and Wakefield both finished 3-7 overall. Washington and Lee finished 2-8, and Stewart had a bit of a rough season, finishing 0-10.
All right, and a guy that is, John, the guy to talk about in the National District is a guy that's been on the show with us before. Ben Barber is one of the hottest recruits in this area. You've gotten a chance to talk with Ben quite a bit. Tell us a little bit about his aspirations and where he may be headed.
Ben Barber's had 3 scholarship offers thus far to 3 Atlantic Coast Conference schools, Virginia Tech University, the University of Virginia, and the University of Maryland. He had stellar numbers last year, led the team with 55 receptions, team leader with 1,034 yards receiving, also the team leader with 12 touchdown passes. Interesting note, though, BJ, this year he will be their starting quarterback in Week 1 against Lee. It goes with the old adage, put your best player behind center.
And in just a minute, we're going to put our best player on the phone. That's Win Ellington. He's one of our writers on the Fairfax Sports Network's staff of writers. We've gotten a chance to expand our staff, and Win is one of our analysts who's writing for our website currently. And in one of his most recent articles, Win got a chance to catch up with Ben Barber. You can catch Win's interview with Ben Barber online at fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. Win, when you got a chance to sit down with Ben Barber, what were your thoughts and what were his thoughts, rather, about the upcoming season and what Edison may be able to do without quarterback Sean Lloyd?
Well, it was a real great opportunity to sit down with Ben. I went and watched the Edison practice, and Coach Vaughn Lewis is just a great guy. He runs a great practice. It was their last two-a-day practice, and I spent some time with Ben out on the baseball bleachers. And Ben, from what I could tell, from what I sensed, he's just very serious and very committed to the success of the football team. He's not much into individual stats, but it's just, he is serious about leading the team this year and just for the team to be as successful as they can.
Now, when you were there, how many snaps did he take behind center, if any reps at all, and did he talk about possibly playing quarterback this year with you?
When I was at the practice, they were doing punt return practice, so I didn't get to see him behind the center. I did go to their scrimmage against Langley, and I saw him behind center there. He's alternating with Brandon Suggs. What Ben told me is that they're going to rotate. The plan right now is for them to just rotate. No one has been named the starter, but he has that big play ability. He has the scrambling ability, as you can imagine. In the scrimmage, the Langley defense was really putting the pressure on him, but he handled that well, and I thought as the game progressed, he got better at handling the pressure.
Now, overall, in the scrimmage, watching them play, what was your opinion of the Edison squad?
Well, my opinion is it's what we've seen from Edison in the past. They're very quick, very fast. The scrimmage was very even, but I thought towards the end, Edison's big play ability gave them the advantage. Both quarterbacks did throw, both Edison quarterbacks, Barber and Brandon Suggs, threw interceptions in the scrimmage. A lot of that was because of the pressure Langley put on them. But towards the end, I really thought that Edison's, their quickness gave them their advantage. There was one player in that scrimmage. We didn't have rosters available, so I wasn't able to get his name. But he was number 49, and he was obviously an underclassman. But he had some great breakaway speed. It wasn't Kevin Carter, but there's another Edison back out there also to keep our eyes on.
The mystery back.
The mystery back.
Now, fans are all used to him catching and running into the end zone. Did he seem to be on board with the plan to play quarterback and start throwing the ball instead of catching it?
From the interview with Ben, he was willing to do whatever it took for the team to win, and he was very excited and enthused about being able to play quarterback. He wants to be able to touch the ball every play, and he enjoyed that opportunity. He mentioned to me that he did play quarterback freshman year, so it's not a totally new transition for him.
When a lot of coaches are of the school of thought of you want your best athlete touching the ball every time. And that's why we have you win with our athletes doing the interviews, because you are our best signal caller. I want to thank you, Win, for joining us here on the Fairfax Sports Report. If you want to see the rest of Win Ellington's interview with Ben Barber, go to the website, www.fairfaxsportsnetwork.com, and expect an overhaul this week on the website. You'll be seeing an all-new website with news, notes, stats, and all the up-to-the-date statistics and recruiting news and more written by us, your experts here on the Fairfax Sports Report, and guys like Win Ellington and many more. Check out our bios online. But right now, guys, we're going to get a chance to see who we think is going to win the National District. And if it's any surprise, yeah, there it is. Edison across the board. I got to say, before we get out of the National District, got to watch out for a guy from Yorktown named Robbie Shivers. Edison-Yorktown's matchup will be one of the better National District matchups right there. A little locker room material for the Edison defense. All right, guys, here's some locker room material for all the teams around the northern region. You've been waiting for it all night, and patiently you have the top 10, the Fairfax Sports Network's top 10. And from the top, Dave Bushenfeld, of course, it's 2 Concord District teams.
No surprise that number 1 and number 2 are Westfield and Chantilly. Had a couple of great games last year, including the Northern Region Final. A lot of guys coming back on both sides, a lot of explosion on offense, and they should be right at the top the whole season.
You can tell by talking to Coach Thompson, Stonebridge looks good. Have a lot of kids filling in for those roles they lost last year. Stonebridge a solid number 3.
West Potomac at 4th. They returned Josh Wells, a big time back from last year. Won several games towards the end of last season. Could run away with the Patriot District or could be a tight race. Then at 5th, you have Edison, the defending Northern Region champion and Division 5 state runner-ups. Several key position players do return for them, especially Ben Barber, as we just mentioned. Look for the Eagles to possibly be one of the first champions out of the Northern Region in Division 5 in a long time. Then at 6, you have the perennial Oakton team, always there in the Concord, especially with the expanded playoffs. They could make some serious noise this year.
Robinson, of course, tied there with Centerville, the big dogs from the Concord District, falling a little bit, guys. Robinson has lost their entire secondary and linebacking core, but they have a guy named Timmy Meyer under center, the quarterback. His dad won a couple of state titles. His brother played at Robinson. And don't forget about Mark Bendorf, one of the best coaches in the Northern Region. Centerville falls because of the loss of Mike Skinner and about 1,000 of their athletes, guys. They lost so much from last year. So we'll see what Centerville's able to do. South County, coached by Pete Bendorf and Titus Pennington, looking to take that team up the rankings from week to week. Gordon Live, can't count him out. That superpower offense just drives everyone crazy in the Northern Region. So there's your top 10. You can find that every week, a new and updated top 10 on the Fairfax Sports Network's Fairfax Sports Report and on our website. All right, guys, speaking of picks and who we think are the best, of course, each week is going to be our picks. There it is. There you have it. Oakton, across the board in the Outback Bowl. That's the number 4 versus, rather, the number 6 versus the number 10 ranked team by the Fairfax Sports Network. I think Fairfax is going to win it, and so do the other 2 knuckleheads, John and Paul. But Dave, the smartest one out of all of us. Dave, why is Trey Taylor's Woodson Cavaliers going to win that game?
Both of these teams struggled a little bit last year, but I think Woodson has a lot of guys coming back. They could surprise some people this year.
You cannot count out my Rebels. You cannot. I am an alumnus from Fairfax, and I believe that they have a much better retooled team this year.
There's West Potomac across the board, except for Mr. Paul Frummelt, again breaking rank. Centerville, you think they will beat West Potomac and Jimmy Bennett and Josh Wells, coached by Eric Henderson. That's a squad, Paul. Why will a decimated Centerville squad who hasn't done anything since the loss of Cameron Dose and Drew Dudzik in a year in which they missed the playoffs with an 8-2 record? Here's some knowledge for you. Why will they beat West Potomac?
Well, there's a thing I like to tell John. I'm sure John is tired of me saying it. There's good, and then there's Concord good. Centerville is in the Concord district. They were 6-4 last year. They struggled in their own district, but that's one of the toughest districts to play in. They have a completely retooled team. They lost a lot. They have a lot coming back. They're a different team. They're less finesse, more power. They're going to hit you in the face, and that's going to surprise West Potomac.
Well, hopefully you won't hit me in the face when I ask you to do the Loudoun Report. This is something we do every week for our new viewers in Loudoun. Paul Frummelt's got your top 5 Loudoun football teams.
All right, guys, I'm sure you're pretty sick of lists by now, but I'm going to give you my top 5 dullest district teams in Loudoun County. Now, this doesn't include Stonebridge, and this doesn't include Loudoun Valley. This is just the dullest district. And at number 1, a little bit of a surprise, Broad Run. I believe Broad Run with second-year head coach Mike Burnett will really take these Spartans to the next level. They have 2 great quarterbacks, an all-district quarterback, Cole Shane, and Chris Jessup, who filled in for Shane last year. 2 great quarterbacks. They lost their running backs in Clayton Abel and Austin, Zach Austin, but they're coming back strong. I believe they will win the Dulles District. At number 2, the reigning champs, Parkview. The thing about Parkview is they lost a kid named Derek Dudinsky. Of course, everybody in Loudoun knows Derek Dudinsky. He was one of the best running backs to come out of the county. But Parkview still has a great team coming back, and I have them at number 2. Number 3, Potomac Falls. Another second-year head coach in Scott Woodleaf and his son quarterback. We've heard Loudoun loves to have coaches, love to get their son in that quarterback role, with Gregory Woodleaf being the starting guy for the Panthers look for Potomac Falls to be at number 3. Number 4, a little bit of a surprise, Briar Woods, in their first year playing a district schedule in the Dulles District, they will be the number 4 team. Head coach Charlie Pierce is a great coach, and he has these kids working hard. Just to show you, they already had their first game, beating Hedgeville by over 2 touchdowns. Last year, they lost by over 3. You see how they're already improved. They lost no key people on offense. And number 5, Heritage. There is a drop-off there at number 5, but Heritage will come back strong after a disappointing season last year. And that is your Loudoun Report for this week.
A strong top 5 from Paul Frummel, who really knows his Loudoun. And Paul, you talk a little bit about Charlie Pierce's squad at Briar Woods. That's a team. He left Parkview behind. He left Derek Dudinsky, arguably the greatest back ever to come through Sterling, knowing that that's what he left behind. It's a district championship. He left that there, knowing it was going to happen. He left that district championship squad and went and started a new program. And there they are, ranked in your top 4. That says a lot about Charlie Pierce.
We talked about South County coming on strong. I believe Briar Woods will come on strong as well. Now, Freedom was another school that came in at the same time as Briar Woods. But last year, Freedom lost a lot to graduation. Briar Woods didn't lose anybody.
All right. We won't lose this at all every week because it's so important to the show and the website. You will find Marcario's Madness on the website every week. You tune in here to the Fairfax Sports Report. Right now, John Marcario, take it away with your madness.
We have a little abbreviated Marcario Madness today. We've talked about it a little bit throughout the show, but last year the Northern Region Council decided to up the playoffs in Division 5 and 6 for the regional tournament from 4 to 8 teams. In my opinion, this is a bad idea. In high school football, you have 10 games to define yourself. Teams are defined, schools are defined, players are defined, and to some extent, communities are defined. Is that fair? No. But that's the climate that we live in high school football. The playoffs should be about very good to great teams going. Not good teams going, not average teams going, but great teams. 500 teams, such as Thomas Jefferson and McLean 2 years ago, should not have chances at the playoffs. Is it a nice, warm, and fuzzy story to have a 500 team possibly making the playoffs and upset the top team? Absolutely. But making the top teams play an extra game, which means they would play 17 total games, making it to the state title game, including scrimmages, is not fair to them. High school football is a fun sport. It's an exciting sport to watch at the end because it's the very good to great teams playing. That once was the case in the Northern Region, but is no longer the case anymore.
All right, you make a valid point there, and you can read more of John's commentary, analysis, and thoughts at fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. Just click on News and Notes. Every week you'll find Marcario's Madness. Now, I got to agree with you, though. Maybe the first time in the history of this show I agree with you. But that's a good point. You make a good point. It makes a team like Westfield, who takes on, one of the bottom dwellers, lack of better words, play one extra week when they really don't need that, okay? They don't need that first round, maybe someone gets hurt on a play they shouldn't be even playing, just to make everyone else feel great. And really what it comes down to, in my opinion, is a lot about money and selling tickets to help set off some of these costs. Now, no one's trying to get rich here, but there are a lot of costs that have to be offset in a playoff race. All right, guys, every week you can tune in to the Fairfax Sports Report here on the Fairfax Sports Network and get our expert commentary, thoughts, criticisms, and interviews. We had Mikey Glennon, future NC State quarterback of the Westfield Bulldogs, join us tonight. We had Coach Pete Bendorf of the Patriot District, top dwellers, in my opinion, South County. That's a team to be reckoned with this year. And we also had Liberty District stronghold, or chokeholder, if you will, Mickey Thompson, joining us here from Stonebridge. So all your football news and notes here on the Fairfax Sports Report. You can check out our website, www.fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. We're on the web at fairfaxsportsnetwork.com. I want to thank our underwriters, CCI Screen Printing, for all your screen printing needs. That's 703-978-0257. And don't forget that each week, the Fairfax Sports Network does a Game of the Week. This week's Game of the Week, and you can find this on the website as well, W.T. Woodson at Fairfax, Paul's Fairfax Rebels. You've heard us make our picks. You can see those picks online, and you can also see Oakton versus Madison. Both of these, FSN's Game of the Week. Guys, quickly, we've made our picks as to who wins the districts, all the districts. who wins the Northern Region and who wins the state?
Division 6, I got to go with Westfield until somebody knocks them off. On paper, they look like the best team. And Division 5, probably Stonebridge.
I'm right with Dave.
I'm going to go with all choked up over here.
What's no surprise, BJ? It's Westfield and Stonebridge, the Bulldogs.
Sorry, guys, go ahead.
I'm going to go with Westfield and Edison. Bonus upset pick of the weekend, South County over Westfield in week 1.
Oh, yeah, he had to say it.
All right, had to say, I was trying to let you off the hook. You said that earlier
Saying
today. I tried to let you off the hook on the show. But if you want to expose yourself to the entire Fairfax County, you have the next 35 seconds to explain why you're making potentially the worst pick in the history of high school football.
You can call it the worst pick in high school football. You can call it the best pick of the season. Week
Don't
1.
talk to me. Explain to them. They're all they just changed the channel, so there's no one even there anymore. So
We got
explain
about
to them.
10 seconds.
You have the Westfield team, which is great, and everybody knows about it. You have a South County team that is hungry and looking to show that their stumbles last season, they are better than that. Look for South County to come out strong. Look for South County to finish strong. And look for South County to win it by possibly a touchdown.
Coach eating Coach Thomas. That's him right there.
I love you, Pete Bendorf, but sorry, man, Westfield's too tough. If they do win, I will shave my head on the next episode of Fairfax Sports Report, and you, my friend, can make the first cut. Thanks for joining us here on our big football preview blowout. And don't forget to check out our website. It's going to be up and new this week at fairfaxsportsnetwork.com.